Hello everyone, I'm Viv Laws and I'm delighted to introduce one of One East Asia's regular exhibitors and favourite artists, Jayson Cortez, who has his first solo show in London, the show called Bliss, which we are holding at Gallery 8 in Duke Street, St James's at the moment. Now, we all know that we're in the middle of a crisis of live exhibition holding. It's very important to have the live space, but it's also really important to add different dimensions to the visitor experience, much of which is not accessible right now. And so this interview with Jayson, I hope, will enliven the experience of those who want to learn more about Jayson's art and the exhibition as a whole. So Jayson, welcome.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hello from several thousand miles away on this interview. And Jayson, you've been exhibiting with One East Asia for a number of years now, and I've written about your works for some time now. But for the sake of introduction, I'd like to just ask you one sort of biographical question, if you don't mind. And that is, you originally studied civil engineering, and then you switched to become a full-time artist. Can you tell us just a little about that journey and your decision making?
Hello. I'm Jayson Cortez. I'm 34 years old from Philippines. Correct. I started first civil engineering. I got at least 2 years in college, but this course, this is my father's want me to be at first. He wanted me to take the engineering and then after graduate, find some jobs. Especially, he wanted me to go to London to work as an engineer.
As an engineer.
Then, Then after that, after 2 years, I feel I'm not happy. I'm not comfortable, and this is not me. So I changed my course. I shifted to fine arts, major in advertising.
So that was you'd spent a lot of time actually studying the initial direction that was to some extent sort of family orientated, and then you have now arrived in London, albeit virtually, but physically your work has arrived in London. So it's come around, and we're delighted to host the show here. It's called Bliss. Why did you title the show Bliss?
At first, I will add about the engineering. Then the funny thing, ironically, I supposed to go to London not as engineer, as an artist.
Yeah.
I titled Bliss simply for the pure happiness or the supreme happiness. I think everyone, but in different perspective, different people, what is happiness? For me, the collection of my work is the collective imagery of my staging life as an artist. So, for example, I love books. I love the feeling. Although the information now is in the social media, in one click, you get the information. But when I'm young, I'm obsessed of having a small library in our house. So I like the feeling of touching the pages. It's like a passage to another world.
Yeah, I mean, books are that unlimited journey, aren't they? I think René Descartes talked about the mind in the 17th century, about there were no limits, there were no geographical limits on the mind, and just having those books as your way through, even if it's a small collection that's physical, there's something really special about the physical presence. Jayson, one thing that's a repeated motif in your work, which is figurative, So, first of all, there's two things I want to ask about. That's the use of the human figure and also the use of the motif of roses. Are you able to expand on the reasons why you choose the figurative motif and also the roses throughout your work? What's your thinking?
At my first as a apprentice, I'm introduced to human anatomy with my mentor, Welbart. And I love the figure because uh, every figure, every gesture, it has a different meaning. And doing figurative is very challenging for me. I really love to paint. It's more compatible for me to play, to execute my idea, my creative juices. And the use of roses, it symbolized for me as first for my family, it's symbolized for love.
Yeah.
And I love to associate it in connection to nature.
I see.
Yeah, we human. I think for me, is really connected to nature.
Okay.
If we destroy the nature, I think we also destroy as a humanity. So
Exactly.
for me, yeah, it's the one reason or meaning for me, the connection of roses as a, it's also roses also universal.
Yes. Oh, indeed. Yes. It has so much symbolism, the rose, as a flower in cultures worldwide. What?
Yeah, different culture, maybe different culture, but when you see roses, something really connected to everyone. Simple joy, happiness because of the beauty. But for me, it's all that all about beauty. Sometimes there's a pain like the thorn. So that's why I associated the roses in light. And also, I'm happy doing with roses. It's like my default subject.
Yes.
Every time I'm concentrating or grinding my creative juices, so it's always like my default subject or like also a passage into my creative world.
Yeah, I mean it's you know it's very obvious, you know, it's there for everyone to see in the motif. And actually one thing I've noticed is often the roses obscure part of the face, particularly the eyes, not always but often. Now why that juxtaposition, why this sort of almost like an armor of roses across the face, the part that you can read?
Yeah, I call it see beautiful.
See beautiful.
So yeah, the subject covering their eyes. Uh, without looking at it, you just simply see beautiful. But for the subject, uh, honestly, they don't see anything.
Mm.
It's totally dark or black in reality. So what I'm telling to see beautiful is using your heart.
Okay. So do you ever perceive the figurative subject within the painting? Do you perceive also them looking out? Are they also obscured? Is their vision also obscured? Or is it enlightened by the beautiful, the seeing of the beautiful? Because there's the looking of us and then there's the looking of the figurative motif.
It's about trust because you putting some beautiful things in your eyes, covering your eyes. You are trusting, and it's originally came from my old works. Yeah, as my sister model, my model as a sister, my sister when she's young, it's like experimental. I'm doing like anything, pose, playing her with the flowers. So, and a couple of shots. Then we experimented like putting it. Then eventually, I feel that yeah, uh, she is trusting me as a brother. I started her as a model 8 years old. Until now, she's 70 years old.
Okay, and still modeling for you. Does she still?
Yeah.
Yeah, she does. A very good. I mean, in fact, you bring your family, your wife Tracy, and the recent addition to your family of your son is in one of the works. Um, it seems to me, looking at this, that the importance of family is absolutely paramount, both in the motifs and actually the whole way you work.
Yes, I always use, oftentimes I always use a family member as a model
Mm.
because it's easy for me to connect to them. Unlike other model, it's so many adjustment.
Mm.
But for me, we because they are really connected to me, they know what I really want to for them to pose, to show. Uh, they easily execute the feeling I wanted to show.
And that's, I mean,
So
the definition of trust. In fact, the subject matter is there in the process. They trust you, you trust them. You know,
yeah, yeah, correct.
in process. I mean, that's yeah, that really comes through. In fact, the way your figures appear, and I mean, it's the viewer sees what the viewer wants to see. We will all see different things, but as well as the roses, the figures are seeing the roses. We of course are seeing that idea of beauty, seeing beautiful. I mean, it works from whether you're the viewer or whether you are this putative subject. Um, and one other thing, I mean, the other really clear allusion within your work is to photography. Now, again, one will see different things according to one's own perceptions and interests. But there appears to be a reference to both sepia and black and white photography. It comes across as historic photography. Can you explain a little about this positioning of the motifs, the human and the flower motifs within this conceit of the photographic medium as painting? How are you framing that in terms of your own ideas?
Yeah, as a realist painter, first of all, I want to copy and imitate the reality, like the photography, they captured particular story moment for me also, but in different way. I choose to play it like in a surreal way. It's really fun capturing a reality moment and putting my story, my creativity, my idea. It's like making another world based on reality. So sometimes I love to execute it sometimes from the reality and making it like more mystery
Mm.
or magical, like some like illusional world. And the use of monochromatic for me, I want my painting to appeal like um, vintage,
Yes,
like never grow old.
yes,
100 years to 200 years from now, I want it to feel like classic.
yes. And then
And
when you have
and
it, it does come across like that, but then you you throw us by suddenly having absolutely clear technicolor, some technicolor flowers or a bright background. And what's the methodology here? What's the process here?
yeah, and also I just want to limit my my color. But because before I used too many colors, it's not my type doing that, or maybe not my mood. So I started to eliminate more color. I started to paint monochromatic. My old works, I use yellowish stone because of my mentor, Bart. I learned from him. Then eventually I transformed to more on sepia, then or black and white. And now I started to putting up some spot color or something, something you have focus,
The,
more on focus.
yeah. And then, and finally, I mean, again, we can read different things into this according to each viewer's conception. With this group of works under the Bliss exhibition, you've also put in these abstract brushstrokes. I mean, they struck me almost like a whiplash or an ear of corn or something all completely abstract. You know, you can see what you want in them. And that interruption to the surface, what's your intention there?
Yeah. As a real estate, I at first I want to capture or to copy the the images um, from photography, but I don't want to make my painting as just a photorealistic style. I want it to be like painterly done.
Yes.
So I started executing brush strokes
Yeah.
and thicker paint sometimes, and I wanted to be not just photo. When you see it, I wanted you feel the motion also.
Mm.
I want something to see like a motion because the image itself is still.
Yeah. Okay. So the movement, it's movement, and
Yes.
it reminds us. What strikes me, it reminds us that it's a painting. You know, you can go on a journey and say, "Oh, it's like a photograph," but then it's telling you it's a painting. That brushstroke.
Yeah, that movement. I think I say it inspired me with Francis Bacon.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
That kind of movement.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, your influences are very diverse. I mean, your canon, if you like, of artistic inspiration. You've mentioned Welbart, another Filipino artist that One East Asia again regularly shows and has been a very important mentor for you, and your artistic mentors in terms of historic art, contemporary art. Who would you list as your top inspirations?
Yeah, yeah. That's correct.
Yeah, so it'd be Francis Bacon. Who else?
In Philippines, Welbart, Ronald Ventura, Ang Kyuko,
Yes.
also national artist here.
Yes.
And in international, Francis Bacon, Rembrandt, Da Vinci, yeah, and also Picasso.
Okay, so you've selected whether from the Philippines or international artists. You know, some of the stellar artists, and perhaps people outside the Philippines might not know. You know, the Welbarts and the national artists in particular. Of course, the art of the Philippines has a fantastically intricate history of that interactive axis with the European salons and so on. It's a fascinating history, and it's actually great to see, you know, a young but established career artist such as yourself with your mentor Welbart, but also looking at the canon that has developed in the Philippines, as well as that international canon, and producing works that lead onwards in a particular way of seeing that we've discussed today. So Jayson Cortez, thank you very much for your time, and I hope that those watching this this interview will have some sort of access into Jayson Cortez's oeuvre, and also that it opens the door to Welbart as well, who in due course we will interview on the One East Asia video.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Jayson, thank you very much for your time, and
thank you, Viv.
We'd be glad to see you again very, very soon.